Welcome to the Stack Supplement Podcast, the premier source for supplement news and reviews.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Stack Supplement Podcast. And this is yet another interview edition with a longtime friend and one of the smartest people I know. We have, I always say Drew PD. I never know what the name is, but it's the man from Dragon Pharma.
Drew Peters, Director of Science at Dragon Pharma.
Okay, Drew Peters. Okay. So yeah. Thank you for coming on. Dragon Pharma, to be honest, I only just started following Dragon Pharma kind of since you came on board, because I saw you sharing some stuff and they'd been on my radar because I had seen their social media ads with Rami. That was really the only reason I kind of knew who they were. And you started sharing sort of things that you were doing when you came on board. And I was like, that's my kind of stuff. Like the frequent updates, the developments, the changes, the reformulations. So you kind of started things off. I think the first thing you did was it the Dr. Fear revamp? Was it EAA?
Yeah, that was actually one of the very first projects. The very first thing technically I did when I got in the building, we launched our natural diuretic Dry Up. That was the very first product I worked on. I was actually working on that in the car ride on the way home from Connecticut when I was moving back down to Florida. Done. We launched Dry Up, the high potency diuretic, and then one of the very first projects that we undertook was relaunching our flagship product, the Dr. Fear. A lot of people, feedback we had on it was man, I really like the formula. It initially had the amino 9 from Compound Solutions, the gram of Pico 2, a great formula, but tasted horrible. So, quite frankly, I can't have that happen. A little tweaking, a little 10 to 11 care, and we revamped the formula. So it's Pico 2, 10 grams of full spectrum EAAs, and a rebranding and packaging and amazing flavor system. That's where we are today, and it kind of awoken the beast per se for what we've been working on at Dragon this year.
Because you switched, you switched from amino 9 or switched to amino 9? I couldn't remember.
Switched from amino 9.
Yeah, switched from me. I knew somewhere it was one way or the other. And so yeah, that was kind of the one that put it on my radar, because as much as there are a lot of different categories, I like to stick to the mainstream ones. If it's a company that's only putting out SARMs, it's never going to be featured. I kind of stay mainstream sports nutrition. But Dragon Pharma, I would say, even though amino was the first product we saw kind of with the Drew touch, it is, in my mind, very much a hardcore brand. It comes across as very intense, very strong. Like you don't make any effort to hide that. Like the audience, the ambassadors, it's all very, it's just very hardcore. Is there a reason, again, amino isn't necessarily a hardcore category? Was it sort of your attention to get Dragon Pharma more into these mainstream areas? Because the products that you revamped were very much those kind of key, because after Dr. Fear, you did the Preach, you did the fat burner, you very much touched on all those mainstream areas. Was that kind of the idea, or was it just, these are the things we want to work on?
Well, quite frankly, the beauty of Dragon, when I first got introduced to it, actually Brian Icolina, who I worked with at ProSeps, knew Jader, and it kind of connected us, saying, hey, man, they're looking to expand the brand and revamp it and take it to the next level. And I came in. They had existing products, the Venom, the Mr. Veins, the Dr. Fear, and the ATP Force, and the big seller, the Black Viper. And, I came in and I looked at some of the stuff. I'm like, okay, I can work with this. You have some cool branding. And so initially, the initial hardcore markets, what we had, it just kind of fit. We're huge in Brazil. We have, of course, like some of the athletes down there, like some of them, like jacked women that come out of Brazil, kind of is.
Yeah, that was going to something I'll touch on later.
So it kind of is where we started. We're owned by, obviously, Jader is Brazilian as well as his business partner. So that kind of is where we gravitated from. We saw a ton of business there. But then in the U.S. market, obviously, it still fit kind of what the brand stand for. Obviously, I'm not trying to make do I want to make a brand for everybody can make thing, because I don't want to lose our way. But at the same time, I don't want to have something so intimidating where the average person that wants to have a badass workout, improve their body, they're going to be scared off from the brand. So it kind of fits in the middle. And once again, that's a huge step. And I don't think any brand in my mind really captures both. So I want to put our money where our bread and butter is, and that is more sort of the hardcore market. So back to what you're saying there, I agree with 100%. We had those products, we revamped them. Some of it inherently was what I've worked with in the past in terms of what has worked. Some of it is kind of like, okay, I want to avoid going down a rabbit hole that some brands get trapped in, but focus on our strengths. Our Venom pre-workout was a huge seller. Our Black Viper, those two hard products. Okay, let's tune up the look. Let's make the formula even better. Do something really cool in terms of the science behind it, and make it, hard, but then also make it so we have a really cool product that's more cutting edge that people can understand. Because I can make really cool stuff. You just said to the smart thing. It doesn't matter if I understand it and think it's a really cool product. If I don't make a product where people understand it, then I failed as a formulator, right? I have to also convey that message.
Yeah. It's one of the things I thought was interesting was the Venom and the Veins, the Dr. Veins, because previously they weren't exactly like, if I remember correctly, they weren't entirely stackable, or like they were, and you kind of revamped them to be, I guess, more of a clear-cut difference.
Well, with that one, that actually had a bit of identity crisis that also compare it very directly to kind of what Proceps had an issue with back in the day. Mr.
Hyde and Jekyll,
Jekyll. And everybody thought, and unfortunately, a problem that I tried to fix is everybody thought that Dr. Jekyll was a weak version of Mr. Hyde. So we didn't necessarily have that issue with Venom and Mr. Veins. People said, okay, I understand. It's Mr. Veins. They think veins, vascularity. Oh, this is the pump pre-workout. And the thing is, it was kind of the same issue. The Venom was very high stim. It still is. It's hard-hitting, focus-driven. But then Mr. Veins is now a truly stimulant-free, nootropic, and pump-focused type product, so that if you want to use each independently, they're going to work fantastically. I stand behind that 100%. The people think you're stim-free, like, oh, I'm not going to feel it. But with Nuganda, with L-tyrosine, Lion's Mane, and things, you can take a scoop of Mr. Veins, a large scoop like I do, go to the gym. You feel locked in, you feel focused. It's not going to have that jittery, the anxiety. It's a different type of locked in feel. But if you want to stack them together, they're also not going to have a massive amount of overlap, so they can work in synergy. And that's the beauty of what I think we accomplished by making Venom Mr. Veins the way we did in the relaunch. Because
originally the Veins, it was like a low stim, was it not?
Exactly. I think the big scoop, I do have one here. The old Venom had, I believe, 400 milligrams of caffeine plus the Uriagerensis. Oh, and 375 caffeine and 250 Uriagerensis, 100 milligrams of extended release caffeine. The caffeine yield would have been about 420 plus urea. And the Mr. Veins, I believe, had 100 milligrams of caffeine plus a touch of Uriagerensis. So it wasn't truly a stim-free one. And I personally wouldn't take a big scoop of both, because that's a lot of stims.
I thought it was odd when I saw the two. Because I remember when you said Veins was being revamped, and I was just like, oh, it's their stim-free because Venom's their stimulant. And then I looked at it, I was like, wait. I mean, I see a lot of brands and I see a lot of pre-workouts, and I never see like two that maybe you do the stim-free, the stimulant, and then you do a low stim. Mm-hmm. But you never really make them appear like they could be stacked, because Veins, the name, made it sound like, yeah, you can throw these two together, which I guess you could. But I mean, it was a different kind of thrown together, because it was not too long after the pre's you moved on to Black Viper, which, as you were saying, and when we shared it, that was kind of like the comments were lit up on social media saying how much of a favorite it was, the original. I wasn't too sure what was the original discontinued, or was it just revamped? Because I couldn't. That was the one thing I had trouble trying to figure out. So I just said it's been renewed.
Yeah, it got revamped a little bit. A big part of what we've done across the board was redo the look of the label, keeping the same elements, but making it brighter, making more cohesive thing. Because I noticed one thing right off the bat, it's kind of all over the board, and we'll touch on that later. But with the old version of the Black Viper, I did try not to tone it down. But the issue we were having a lot of things, I'll be very transparent here, was in a lot of our previous products, the Venom, the Veins, the Black Viper had the Uriagerensis. It's a pain in the butt in terms of getting that ingredient sourced consistently with quality material. So quite frankly, I didn't trust it from what was over from importing it. I wanted a product that hit hard without having that same supply chain issue, and also made it less of a gray area supplement in terms of that, because, Uriagerensis, some people say, oh, next on the chopping block. And I'm like, nope, I'm not bothering with that. We're going to put in a better formula. So that was the main reason. It got a new look on the label, more polished look. It went to the black cylinder bottle, so it has a nice, cleaner bottle and label too. So it solved a few things, branding identity as well as making more sustainable supply chain wise. And it still moves a massive volume for us.
Yeah, so I would say those were like sort of the big four. You also had Neuromix in there, which I thought was, again, another kind of push. It almost felt like, because I had seen, like I said, I'd seen Dragon Pharma before, but when you came on board, it kind of brought that, I kind of liken it to when I see like an Australian brand or a South African brand or a Japanese brand, they don't have that familiarity. Like they just sort of have these products here, there. And then when you came on Dragon Pharma, it brought that, you know, the stuff I'm familiar with. You revamped the pre, you separated the two pre's, made them more understandable. And I think that clarity was definitely needed, because again, I didn't really see it all that much before then. And I think, so is the goal with, like I said, with the products you've revamped and redone, is the goal to really just make it that more, I guess, mainstream marketable brand? Because I wouldn't be surprised if what I consider familiar being the same as people in Brazil, and obviously they're coming from a different world. But I'm not sure if that was your goal, but it very much seems like that's the intention, to kind of, as you're saying, you came from like ProSubs and these other brands that have that, I guess, cohesiveness and that balance. And you've really, I guess, really brought that to Dragon Pharma, made it a brand that you could, I don't know, like, you know, if I want to go buy a pre, an amino, and a fat burner, I can't do that with a brand I don't understand. And I think you've done that tremendously with Dragon Pharma, and very obviously as well.
I mean, the goal wasn't to necessarily make it more mainstream. It was just like, okay, we have.
Oh yeah, not mainstream, just like familiar. And
yeah, it's just like what, and that's my MO. And I'm glad that a lot of people recognize this. You know, like a couple of close friends. You know, I'm huge friends with Ben at Price Boss and so forth, and he said the same thing. It's like Drew's whole MO is to not make the same thing that everybody else is making. You know, I don't want something so off the wall people don't understand it. But the same thing as you kind of saw this with Icon when I launched at ProSubs was I want to do things. They do something that other people haven't done before, because I always use an analogy here. Like, okay, if you were to ask me, hey, what does Venom do? Go ahead.
Oh, me? Ask you what Venom does. Drew, what does Venom do?
Well, it's a high performance pre-workout that's going to enhance your energy, your focus, your training endurance, and even has thermogenic support. It's a really well-rounded pre-workout. Now ask me, okay, well, what does, like, say, your leading competition do?
What does your leading competition do?
Well, it's their pre-workout. They're on energy, focus, training endurance, adherence to performance, and some of them have a thermogenic support. Well, isn't that the same thing? I'm like, well, yes, everybody's trying to get to the same point. There's no reinventing the wheel in this industry per se, but the difference is I like making things that accomplish those same goals in a more efficient and a new age and more novel pathway. There's a more efficient way. I think that really, okay, that makes sense, right? I'm so sick of seeing all these pre-workouts that, oh, what's the main ingredient? Oh, it's got 6 or 8 grams of citrulline. Wow, I haven't seen that before. So why not use 1.5 grams of nitrogen, which has a third-party study done independently. Shows 1 gram of nitrogen matches, if not outperforms 8 grams of citrulline. Like, why not do a more efficient pathway? Plus, you have all the cognitive benefits. There's more studies on that ingredient every single day. It's a really cool thing, you know? So that's kind of a thing I like it too, is like, I like doing things that do things better, more efficiently, and like, you know what, damn, that's really cool. You know, that's kind of my whole MO. And of course, you have beautiful packaging, cool messaging, and yet, man, damn, this is a really cool science, cutting edge brand. You know, another person does this fantastically well. I have some chats in here, and they're a great guy, Joey Savage over at Glaxon. They've done that same kind of. Yes. I love their branding. They do a really cool job. You know, I have no problem acknowledging other people that do a badass job. Another cool one that does amazing thing is Chris Waldron at Inspired. The dude's an awesome guy. Really cool. He makes some really cool shit, you know. We're like the A team. We get together, talk about really cool things. Like, you know what? How can we turn this motherfucking industry upside down? That's the goal.
Yeah, I would say that I feel, to be honest, you do it probably. Chris does great stuff. He's a little bit inconsistent at times, whereas I feel like you've done stuff, you can almost see the plan laid out. Like it was like you thought of this 6 months prior. Like when I saw Dr. Fear, Dr. Fear, and then I saw Veins and then Venom, and I was like, he's come straight in and be like, this is what we're going to do for the next year. and that kind of it kind of rolled out. And like I said, it's not that it made it more mainstream. I guess the word is more familiar. Like it made it seem like if you went from Glaxon and Inspired and you stacked these products with this brand and you come to Dragon Pharma, you can very now obviously be like, okay, they have each of those ones that I like. Let's just see what they can do. And you can, it's just familiar now. And some brands lose that, specifically the new ones where they have like only a pre and only an amino, and you just, it gets a bit mixed up. But the other thing that you did, and I liked, I think it was kind of what you just described, but the cliche on steroids kind of thing with the RX series. Like you did exactly what you just said, but you leant more towards that hardcore field. I felt you kind of had these familiar mainstream kind of category updates with the pre-workout, the amino, and then you really brought in the RX series, which I think newcomers, your average consumer will see benefit. They'll be like, oh, I like that, I like this. But I have to imagine that bodybuilders and hardcore users look at that and be like, oh my God, now I don't have to buy them from somewhere else. This is fantastic. And it's just one of those, and like I said, you just did it in a great way where you attack both sides and it keeps you strong. I mean, the RX series, like again, I thought it was one of the best things, if you don't mind describing or going over the whole concept of that.
No, not at all. Quite frankly, I was pretty pissed when Revive launched their product line, because I thought of this idea for this Dragon RX line in a way, the RX series, quite frankly, probably 4 years ago, and nobody wanted to do it. With the people I worked with were pro subs, like, oh, maybe. Now, I don't know if it's our market.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know if it would fit pro subs.
Oh, they're like, these them launch. I'm like, well, why didn't we launch this? I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? So without having that barricade anymore, I'm like, okay, this is what we got to do, guys. The Dragon RX series. This is my vision. And you hit that exactly, because one thing that is really cool and some brands struggle with is obviously we're in that hardcore space, but the goal of the RX series, I'm still not looking to go after, like the Whole Foods customer, that they probably will be interested in our product. That's okay. But that's exactly it. Brand cohesiveness. I want a one-stop shop in a very selfish way. I'm a science guy, I'm a meathead, I'm a bodybuilder at heart. But at the end of the day is I use other products because, like, okay, if I don't have this, I have to go out and get it. Like a long-term health. If I want a cardio type product, okay, do I buy something from Now Foods? Do I have to buy something over here? There's nothing really in our space that satisfied that need. And that's where this idea came from a few years ago. Like in competition prep, man, my joints hurt. Okay, I probably need to care of my prostate, competition type stuffs, liver support, so on and so forth. I'm hodgepodge all over the board. Why don't we have a one-stop shop where we have all of these with a hardcore take that's intense enough where a serious athlete's going to really like the branding of it, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to scare somebody off. Somebody like my dad, he's 62 years old. Yeah, 62. And okay, if he needs like a good prostate support, I have no problem. Like, hey man, I got a perfect product for you, or a cardiovascular support. Hey, check this out. I'm probably not giving him like a container of Venom. He doesn't probably want 400 million caffeine, right? But at the end of the day, that opens a door, because if we have a current customer and they want a really good joint support or really good liver support, we have that offering to them. Or somebody outside of our space looking for a really good liver support or really good joint support, something in this, they're going to buy that product and say, man, this is really cool. Let me see what else you guys have. It brings that customer into our Venom, our other products. So I kind of did on purpose. It fit our branding, but it's also kind of its own entity. So that was kind of the overall goal for this. And quite frankly, I get most pumped up about that RX series out of everything in here, which is kind of surprising most people. Like, really, you're excited about like a health series? I'm like, yes, because how many people use pre-workout worldwide versus how many people are interested in general long-term health and longevity? Because my whole branding of this, I thought this was amazing, was like, you know what, the voiceovers I love doing, I come with them sometimes at the oddest times. I'll be home at night, slicing up chicken for my meal prep. I'm like, that's not a bad idea. I should make a vegan protein while I'm cutting up chicken. You know how that goes? Yeah. Random shit. But the idea was, before you're an athlete, a champion, you're a human. Address that need first. Everything else comes after that is secondary. And that's kind of the whole thing launch. You launch with human first. Rojas, our graphics and artist, does an amazing job bringing these concepts to life, and the branding. We have an amazing video team, X and J. Viali ties the marketing together. And of course, Jader, credit to our CEO. He's very good about not worrying about the spotlight. He lets people shine and do their job. And that's why we've been very successful in what we've done so far. And quite frankly, right now, we have a bigger demand than I have product available. So it's a growing thing.
It's a good problem to have. Well, I think you had brands that have done not similar, but they've attempted, like they'll do the vitamin C and the glutamine, and then they'll touch on that area that you have made an entire line out of. But they always have that, I don't know, that like even the basic series, even though you want it to look basic, you don't want it to look basic. Whereas you,
Exactly.
with the RX series, you made it look basic, but still very cool at the same time, which I think was key, because if you put, I don't know, like the Now Foods branding, it's as straightforward as you can get. But if you put like, if you said, oh, this is the most premium prostate support supplement out there, I would be like, even though I'd probably buy it, I'd be like, well, I know there's probably better out there. But the branding, I think, on the RX series really helps it. And as you say, it attracts people who aren't sports nutrition based, and they'll bring you into their world, which is very much my stance when it comes to functional foods and energy drinks. I say that to a lot of people, like the amount of people that, take energy drinks that don't lift shit and don't go to the gym and just drink them, and that now follow me because they'd be like, oh, I love this drink and I love that. And I'm just like, it's those kinds of people that if a brand starts offering something outside of their usual realm, it can open their eyes to a whole new world, whether it be the hardcore Viper and all that stuff. I think it was just done extremely well, because when you first told me about it, I was like, very few brands would give you the power to do that. I don't think many brands would sort of not necessarily take the risk, but I guess put something out there. I mean, there have been products out there, but they haven't done that well. And like I said, they weren't done that well. And you guys did extremely well on that one. And it was sort of like a great finish to the year, I guess. Well, not finish to the year, but just a great, because you did all your reformulations, then this, and it was that 6 different supplements?
We relaunched Dr.
Oh, sorry, no,
Fear.
that in the RX series, there was 6 in there, wasn't there?
No, I believe we had prostate, cardio, liver, joints, immune, vitamin C, and I think there were 6.
Maybe it was 6.
To myself, I feel like I'm missing one. And then so the big news, you can hear it here first, is really cool. I think people know it's coming. We'll be launching the digestive support, which I would love to talk about. Actually, it literally shipped today. It'll be here in a week from today.
So there is a 7th. I mean,
there's another one this year, and I won't tell you. Fuck it, I don't give a shit. I'm coming out with Dragon RX Lipid, Dragon RX Renal. I have a mega product. I have multi, which is really cool, a food-based multi that's 4 times the absorption of traditional minerals. It's going to keep growing. I have some really cool stuff. The labels are literally printed. The product's already made.
Oh, so this is all for the RX series as well?
Oh yeah, dude.
Oh, wow.
I'm not playing. So the digestive one drops, then I cannot wait, because quite frankly, I think it's one of the coolest digestive things that been done. That's just my opinion, because I made it, but the idea behind this is like, hey, I can stand behind this and say everything in here is in here for a reason. At a full dose, it's fully transparent. You check the website, here's the research listing for everything in the product. That's how I make everything. If it doesn't, I can't justify it with a dose and the reason I put it in the product, I don't make the product so that doesn't go out the door. That's kind of how I see things.
Huh. The multivitamin you're saying, I actually saw Cage do something very similar, which I hadn't seen before, with the whole food sourced kind of thing. I wasn't aware that there was even a product out there that had done that before. I'm sure there is. I guarantee you there is, but
there is.
I hadn't come across them before, especially in sports nutrition. Obviously, we typically go with I imagine, the cheaper versions. And I thought Cage, I was talking to supplement engineer, and he was saying the same thing. He thought it was a really cool, a very unique approach, just to kind of, and I wouldn't be surprised if more take it. So you're saying the idea on that one is that it just way better absorption, way better bioavailability.
Yeah, that's the thing. Honestly, I'm not super concerned with over-engineering a freaking multivitamin. There's the approach of, okay, let's put 10 capsules in a packet and slap it in a can and call it something cool. I mean, they did well, but it doesn't matter if you have this mega buttload of all these vitamins, you can't absorb them. So the whole point of this, I'll be fully transparent, it's a very specific and, quite frankly, general list of inclusion of vitamins and minerals. They're included not a mega dose, like 100% daily value, nothing overkill, right? That's not the point of this. But everything in there is included a full dose, and it's fermented type vitamins. They're whole food based, so they're more absorbable than traditional synthetically created vitamins.
Yeah.
That's the it. So, it's not meant to be a mega dose. That's not the idea here. But it's, hey, if I want a really good multi, Dragon offers that. It's going to be cost effectively. And the angle is it's a whole food based fermented multivitamin where it's easy to buy to absorb. That was the whole angle. And I think Cade's Muscle did do that, but it's not new. The other brands like mainstream thing, I think, I think One A Day, I want to say has a fermented whole food type one based one. I want to say Centrum might, some.
I almost guarantee that someone's done it. I knew as soon as I saw it, I was like, I just thought it was cool, and I'm like, but I know. And I liked how Cage, they, alongside each vitamin, they had listed the kind of whole food source it came from. So they sort of had, like I think it was like spirulina and broccoli. They had all these different whole food sources saying that this is where this come from, and I thought that was, especially from Cage, because again, that's a very mainstream type brand. I was like, this is actually kind of cool. I thought it was, so I mean, I'm kind of happy that Dragon is coming out with it, only because I think Cage was quite expensive. Couldn't remember the exact price, but I'll be interested to see. So you got at least, what you say, 4 more coming? Like what?
Myself, I have 6, including the digestion. We're going to be launching.
Doubling the size.
Yeah. We're at
I
6.
assume, are they all dropping like between now and the end of the year?
No, the only one that'll be coming this year most likely will be the digestion one.
Okay.
So by the end of the year, I'm going to drop at least 2 more products. One of them is a new one, which is the Digestion RX, and the other one is going to be the relaunch of the Isoform Protein. And you can hear it here first on Stack Mag. We've teased it a few places, but I'm going to make sure you get the 411. It's still going to be a complete hydrolyzed whey protein isolate, 25 grams protein per serving, but the look is just, if you've seen some of the stuff with Dr. Fear, I'm teasing it. The look is badass, and the flavor system's been revamped to be even better. So those are my at least 2 more this year, and I've already have a very aggressive 2021 planned.
I was going to say, of all the products you've got in the lineup, I'm pretty sure there's none left to revamp. I mean, there might be some, but you've done what? I'm just going to look at the line now. What, ATP is the only one you haven't touched, probably?
I did.
Oh, you did?
I redid the packaging, yeah. I redid the flavor. So the formula was actually really good. It was very simple to the point. I liked it. I'm like 5 grams of Creapure, 150 mgs of ATP, 2.5 grams of betaine anhydrous, and 2 grams of taurine. I mean, what's wrong there? I like this formula. Okay, I'm good with this. People like it. I just made it taste better, and I put it in a packaging that fits the rest of our branding. That's all I did for that one.
Oh, okay. No wonder I didn't hear too much about it on that one. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. The other one I was actually going to ask about, and I was surprised the amount of interest I got on this was the Fermatrope, because I mean, I could probably count the amount of supplements that made to build muscle for women on maybe half of one hand that I've actually ever shared on the history of Stacked. I don't think I've seen many at all. And when we shared it, again, the reaction with Dragon Pharma seems to be pretty solid and building from our side. And we had messages, we had a couple of people asking us, and it was really weird. I had someone just said, hey, where can I get this? What do you think about this? And it was odd. I was like, I mean, if you're looking for a muscle builder to help females, you're really short on options, and that would be the one. And because originally when you launched it, you said it was sort of a very popular. The social media was saying it's quite popular and high demand. Was that one of the older ones in the Dragon Pharma lineup? I don't really know how old Dragon Pharma itself is, but
Dragon Pharma has been around since 2015. There's a few products that initially were on the gray area side of things. And one of them actually is coming. Oh, that's a huge one. People are going to shit their pants when they hear this is coming back at a reformulation with our Hydra, which is another one. People are like, holy fuck, where can I buy this? Because it was on the darker side. But the one coming back will be kind of on the male side of things for a premium natural anabolic. I think you're like this. I know everybody's like, okay, how are you going to accomplish this? I'm like, trust me, I got some really cool shit. Our people are starting to take a note here too in terms of what they're doing. I know Chemex is coming out there anabolic, Blackstone, they're always putting out a bunch of other shits, but
Blackstone is pretty much only anabolics, I thought. I mean, they do have other stuff.
Anyway, yeah, the FEMA. is quite legendary. A huge response on it. And the same thing I'm amazed how many messages I get, like one that's gonna be back in stock, when it was out of stock for a while. They're like, when's FEMA coming back? When's FEMA coming back? Left and right, tons of people in Portuguese, because everybody in Brazil loves it.
That was the other thing I was noticing. A lot of people messaged me in Portuguese, so I was hoping they enjoyed the Google Translate as much as I did.
Donde está FEMA? I guess that was Spanish, but you get the idea. So it's a natural anabolic for the ladies. It's based on our audience, and a lot of them, exactly as you were attending to, a lot of the female athletes in Brazil, there's some very, very strong, and that messaging behind it. I want to look like her, so they have a great presence there. But yeah, I brought that one back. The original version had laxagenin in it. I pulled it out like this in terms of the gray area. That's actually, I don't want to leak too much, but the laxagenin will make you move over to Hydra, among a few other very cool things in a very cool formula. This one I'm very excited for, so we'll talk on helping you announce that for us, which is really cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm very excited about the Hydra. We'll chat about that off thing. Yes, everybody's going to blow up now because Hydra's coming back. Good luck on your emails with this one, bro, if this leaks. But
I'll be happy to put it out there. I mean, by the sounds of things, again, I haven't followed Dragon Pharma for too long, but it sounds like, again, one of those ones where you just kind of just needs to be said, because that was the one thing I would say I was surprised about, was that how strong of a following Dragon Pharma has. Mm-hmm. And again, I didn't know it was 5 years old. I probably would have said 2 or 3, but it sounds like it blew up in like that first two years, and then it's kind of only just drifted into the US. But
exactly,
I know Brazilian brands have loyal followings, and they are short on options there. So it's you kind of got Black Skull, Adol Hedicas. I'm a big fan of theirs, but those Brazilian athletes that they get are they're some beasts. And I think Dragon Pharma snatched up a good few of them.
We did, and it's very cool. Exactly, we have a very cool following. In terms of people that like our brand, the people like, oh my God, when's coming back? When's this coming back? It's really cool to see that, and then to add the cool new stuff we had on top of it. We have people that just want to try it just because it comes from us, and I don't take that for granted. I don't want to lose customers. I want to make sure everything that they get is something like, holy crap, this is really cool. I'm glad, it's worth the wait. I'm glad some of you guys, it makes the reward better. Then of course, keep pumping. I never took the foot off the gas from our main stuff. Never stop pushing Venom, never stop pushing Viper, but add cool things. I don't want to go away from our bread and butter because that is us, but I want to be a complete brand. We have a lot of stuff coming. Just to name a few, I am going to be launching a vegan protein next year. Quite frankly, I want to be the best tasting and hardcore vegan protein on the market.
It's going to be a tough one to do.
In terms of the tasting one or the hardcore market? Which part?
Well, the tasting one is something I've learned it's become subjective, but the hardcore angle is a tough one. I mean, unless you throw in some laxagenin.
I saw somebody put like 200 milligrams of laxagenin in my BCA, so I mean, nothing surprises me. But the idea when I say hardcore here to make the protein is, I'm not looking to pick up a whole food customer. I'm not looking to worry about somebody. They're not interested in Dragon Pharma anyway. Like I said before, they're going to look at like the Red 40 and the Tropical Venom. And I'm going to sweeten with sucralose because, quite frankly, I'm not going after the customer. Another thing, I'm not sure why people, I've talked about this with a few people at distance, why people associate like vegan protein with like, oh, it can't use sucralose or this, it has to use stevia. Sucralose isn't perfectly fine. If you're like a whole food customer, you don't want sucralose, period, that's a different story. But our typical customer that's wanting that, or the idea of this protein is going to be designed for a serious athlete that either A, has a dairy allergy, or B, wants to try a vegan lifestyle, which is an emerging thing a lot of people are trying, or somebody just flat out wants an alternative to dairy. There's going to be a couple bells and whistles on this. It's going to help address the issues people have with plant-based protein, such as bioavailability, muscle protein synthesis response, so on and so forth, and overall absorption, on top of tasting amazing. So it's going to be a very cool, well-rounded product, and that's the goal. Plus, I've been working on the flavor system for a while, and it just has to taste amazing. So I'm going to accomplish all these things. That's the overall goal. I want it to be perfect, quite frankly, before it's out. So it'll be probably Q1 or Q2, depending on how things go, and make sure everything else you have planned ahead of that goes accordingly, because I don't want to lose sight of what's down the path while we're launching the current things we have planned.
Wow. So, I mean, you've kind of definitely, I would say, revamped the entire lineup. The other question I had to ask was, in Brazil, the lineup, I imagine, is very different, right? Like, it's not all of the same It's the same?
Same thing. Same thing. We sell everything that we have in the U.S. to Brazil.
Okay, no wonder you have a lot of fans, because I know that a lot of the brands that
I mean, and it's not an illegal thing. It's just like, it's like, oh, it's a registered thing where an importer, whatever, they buy it and they sell it in their store. That's a different path. That's where you see, no offense, some of these brands that have like nothing but caffeine and flavoring in the product. There's different ways of going about that. Other brands do it too. It's like, okay, we sell directly, directly to Brazil. We have people that import it and sell down there direct. So that's kind of how we can sell.
So it's sort of like it's imported from the US and sold to Brazil directly that way, or is it?
Yeah, we have some people that buy it and they have stores down there and they just carry it that way versus the different channels of it. I mean, if we want to get into some of their more mainstream stores or whatever, that's a different animal, but there's whatever different pathways of going about it. It's not like some people like, really? Like, I thought you couldn't sell anything to Brazil. I'm like, well, it depends what channel you go through.
Yeah. It's kind of like a lot of countries. I've seen a few when I was in the Middle East, because as far as I knew, Yahimbi isn't allowed outside of America. Like there is no country that I've been to where they allow it. But I went to the Middle East, and you had these pretty much like a shelf of Yahimbi products, but you went to another store from the same chain. None of that in sight, all clean cut, and I was like, "This is weird." But I can imagine how that would be the way to go, because a lot of the Brazilian brands I know, I believe they're whole fully Brazilian brands, and they take those mainstream chains and they take the mainstream brands like Black Skull, and you're very much just caffeine, creatine, carnitine, taurine.
Yep.
It's
like 3 to 4 gram scoop of 6 things. I'm like, what is this? Well, so we can sell here. I'm like,
and dextrose is usually counted as one of those 6 things.
Yeah. I don't even know how to go about the Australian market these days, but some of those new regulations are dropping effective on December 1st.
I thought it was November 1st. I could be wrong.
First, we're not there yet, but I know I'm like, damn, we're looking to, of course, expand there, and I am going to make some stuff like a international version of course, Viper, Venom, so on and so forth. The 2 big products to make it more mobile and expand our base. But it's like, okay. It's crazy because even things that aren't like bad, quote unquote, or grayer ingredients, like we have also emphasis too is to make everything in a line where it's not a regulatory issue. I'm not going to go on fringe ingredients that are a possibility of getting popped in terms of being banned. I'm not going to fuck with like Aragerensis or DMHA or anything that some of these brands is using, because the bigger we get, the more spotlight we're getting. If something gets popped or removed, then we're liable to have to fix it. I don't want to have to go that route. Okay. Look at Venom. There's nothing in there questionable. It's going to be banned anytime soon. I mean, I don't think so.
It's just shitty, I guess, what's happened in Australia, because it's kind of like, you think you got a good grasp on everything, and you're shipping to Europe and Asia, and then Australia just fucks up it all, and you're just like, well, what the but the thing is that I find it so disappointing is that they allow people to bring in whatever the fuck they want via customs. So you're better off as an international brand trying to sell to the Australian consumers direct than you are trying to get distribution. Obviously, it's a little harder, but the rules, you got to be a big brand, because it's basically it's not necessarily the ingredients, although there are limits, like 320 caffeine is and it has to be a 5%. It has to make up a maximum of 5% of the scoop. So the caffeine, and it's but you have to change the label. So I mean, I can send you one. It basically has to be a protein powder label, in theory, that lists the macros, even though it's all nil, and then you can list off the actives underneath. But it has to be presented that way.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see some insight on that one. So that'd be very helpful in terms of that. So thank you. Another interesting one was, of course, a previous brand, ProSubs. We started expanding into China. That's honestly one of the fastest growing markets in terms of up there. And that's a whole interesting thing, because like there's certain ways of importing. Once again, all this is completely above table. It's legal and everything. But like, okay, well, we're selling regular hide to this channel, but for this channel of this over here, we have to have a hide China. And it's like this, I think, I can't remember what it was called. It was like
I think I saw it.
Sport.
It was like white.
Hide Sport. And it's interesting because like beta alanine isn't allowed to be used in like the ingredients, but it can be used as part of the flavor system or something stupid like that. And it's basically like vitamins, caffeine, a sprinkle of beta alanine, some stuff like this. I'm like, who put this together? And like one of the ingredients that was able to be used, like Muscle Tech had this product that was compliant, and it was like, I can't remember the name of it. It was like a sugar, like a starchy sugar as one of the active ingredients. I'm like, I didn't know what the hell this is. It was like a fructose, like a 1,6 difructose something.
To be honest, if they know, if anyone's going to know the ins and outs of China, it's going to be Ayurveda, because if I'm not mistaken, they're partly, if not majority owned.
Yep, exactly.
But they, I was actually meant to be visiting China in June, July of this year, which obviously went to shit. But that was my theory, was to go and learn, because I mean, you can't learn from the outside. They don't have Google, they don't have Facebook, they don't have Instagram, they don't have anything. And because they use services that are like limited to their country or like exclusive, it's not going to be in English, and it doesn't translate directly. And my wife is Chinese, and she was telling me, she's like, it's just one of the weirdest things. Like when you go there, it's a world on its own. Like Japan's a world on its own, China's a world on its own, and it's just, and all the brands like ProSubs say the same thing. They're like, look, we find a distributor, build a relationship, and they kind of just at the driving force, because they'll be the same as them trying to understand any other country. They'll know the ins and outs. But once you get hooked up with a good distributor there, it's key. And people just tell me, they're just like, dude, if they ask for something, you make it, they'll sell millions of it. It's insane. I was like, I talked to someone and I was saying, are there any Chinese brands, like local domestic? Because I only ever hear how good the American ones are doing. And she says, she said to me, she said, yeah, there are, but no one likes local brands in China. They trust outside more than themselves. And I thought, it was just an odd thing, because I'm like, if you know this as a Chinese person, you know this, why don't you try and make yourself look like an American brand? And she said, they don't care. They don't care. They don't make themselves look like it. And they also are half the price of the American brands. So I was like, and this doesn't bother them at all? And she said, no, they just, and I was like, I need to see this. I need to know these people behind these brands. It's just but it's, my wife was saying, that's the culture there. That's just, some people buy local, some people don't, and it's just a weird. So I was like, I need to see this, because in my head it doesn't make sense, but when I see it, I feel like it will.
Okay, so whatever you learn, let me know, because this is something completely new to me and it's fascinating. Just like, hell, even to skip across the pond, I see some stuff, and you don't hear a lot about European brands. Like stuff actually is very hard to go intercontinentally. Like you don't see any international brands being successful in the US. You do see some brands doing pretty well overseas, because we quote unquote have the least amount of regulation in terms of like, we can use a lot more cool things before it gets nixed. I think the only one, dare I say, that I'd notice at all in the US with a presence is Grenade. Yeah. Because they're, other than that, I don't see a lot of their product moving. They do a great job with their bars. And USN, they have a pretty
USN
big.
is, I mean, I think USN and Grenade it's their consistency. They've been at it USN has attempted to get into the US for a while. So has Grenade. Grenade is 8 years old. They're the same age as me, but worth a lot more money. They, they tried to tackle the American market not that long ago. They came into, I think it was Vitamin Shop or GNC. Then they tried another route, and it's hard. Like you said, I always tell this. There's a brand in Poland called Olymp, and they dominate Poland. It's just, it's insane how well they do. And they also, they produce all their own shit, and they produce pharmaceuticals. So they're a pharmaceutical brand that basically does sports supplements that is also huge. And then they asked me, how could we appeal to Americans? I was like, look, man, my theory was, I was like, if you can appeal less to Polish people, you're probably going to appeal to more people outside your country, but something that's loved so much by this country, it's going to be impossible for that same like love to be felt by another country, because it's just a different culture, it's a different feeling. And it's that classic thing, when you see an American supplement in Europe, you're like, that looks American. It's that thing. And then when you're an American, you see a European supplement, which never happens, it'd be like, that looks European. And it just has that kind of stigma to it. It's not easy, but American brands do it a lot better by tackling international. You have that ability to be from America.
I think the good example of that is interesting because like I was like amazed. I've been to Europe twice, both in 2016. I went to FIBO in Cologne, Germany.
I met
I
you
went
there.
to Body. Yeah, exactly. The first time I actually met you in person, and then I met, I think I ran into you again at Body Power in Birmingham, UK, and I was just blown away by in Birmingham. I'm like, holy shit! I never thought I'd see anywhere else on this planet that has more Starbucks per capita than the United States. I kid you not. Downtown, I kept walking every. There's a Starbucks every other block. I'm like, holy cow, it's bigger here than it is in the US. And same with McDonald's, is freaking everywhere. I'm like,
Oh yeah,
cool.
Well, the UK is like kind of like a mini, not necessarily like a mini in culture, but miniature in economy and developed like as the US. It's like a similar kind of things with their own little touches. But it's as you get further east, shit changes real fast in Europe.
Yeah, I was gonna say. And airport, to your point, it's interesting. Exact example of that is like, for example, if you're walking in or go like a high end like candy store, right? You have like, oh, it's all the American stuff, so on and so forth. That pretty
Outside
good.
of America, they don't exist.
That looks like European. Like for example, like even the packaging style of like the chocolate, for example. Like, well, one, how you guys spell stuff using that U in the word flavor versus flavor. Yeah, I'm like, okay, that's
Yeah, you
European.
mean every other country in the world that does that.
Yeah. So little nuances. It's interesting, even that catch your eye and how the packaging is designed. That looks foreign, and it's cool because I like trying a lot of different stuff, different countries, but I'm like, that doesn't look like U.S. Yep, made in UK or whatever. I'm like, called it, So that's a good point.
The U.S. chocolate and the European chocolate are significantly different.
They are very different. So,
but the thing is Americans love their chocolate, and everyone else loves the other chocolate.
Exactly.
It's hard. It's yeah. So I mean, it's definitely fun. I would love to see Dragon Pharma outside of the US more, mostly because I think it has that. Again, you've touched the premium. You've got the familiarity there. It's a very well put together brand, and I think it fits in most markets. I mean, it's Australia would. I feel like it's perfect for Australia with the look. They don't have too many hardcore ones there, and they do love them. Europe is a tricky one. So it's just you just got to sort of reach out, see if they like it. If not, too bad. It's a tough one. But thank you for coming on. It was awesome chatting with you. This was definitely fun hearing behind the scenes on Dragon Farm, and I'm extremely excited to see 2021 because it sounds like we're in for pretty much the same but better again.
Yep, I have more time. I had 2021. 2020 was a lot of revamp. And now it's cool because it's like, I think in my opinion, it'll be like, well, I hope my opinion, like an extension beyond what we had. We revamped the key things. Now let's add more to it, the really cool stuff. And a preview, what I do have planned, who knows, may launch all of it, may launch some of it. It's a very dynamic launch schedule. I have a really, 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 really cool GDA, glucose disposal agent, coming out, glucotrope. I have a badass sleep formula. I'm not gonna say the name because I think it's quite cool. I don't want someone to steal it before I launch it. I have a very, very cool whole food based protein meal replacement type product. I have a powdered thermogenic. I have a stim free thermogenic, which is, in my opinion, be one of the most. I actually kind of detailed a little bit of on my stories on IG. Stimulant-free thermogenic, which stacks with our Viper or is independent, some really cool ingredients. They're getting some traction. I have a greens formula. I have a fiber product. I have a libido product. Just top of my head, I just launched all these products. So 2021 will be very big. Let's put it that way.
Shit. Well, definitely keep me in the loop because it sounds like it's going to be the year for Dragon Farmer, and I'll make sure we share it all. Thank you.